Hey everyone, this is Melissa, and I'm the Talkative Introvert. Today's episode is the last episode of Season 3. I really want to thank everyone that was a part of the podcast, the guests, and of course all of you. I really appreciate those that reached out and sent me positive messages. It really does mean a lot. And it's crazy. I know I say this a lot, but it is pretty mind-boggling to know that people actually listen to the podcast. I just didn't expect it, But anyways, thank you to everyone. So before I get into the episode, I just had some little housekeeping stuff. So the first one being I deleted the podcast Facebook page. I'm sorry, but for those who use Facebook, I'm sorry for deleting it, but I personally didn't even have my own Facebook page. I just had a fake account to create the podcast account because you have to have, an actual account. You can't just make one for your business. I just don't use it. I don't ever get comments or messages there. Anytime someone reaches out to me, it's either through Instagram or through email. And I didn't have a lot of followers either. It just didn't make any sense for me to maintain it and keep up with it. Plus, anything that was posted there came from IG anyways. I just really suck at posting on social media already. So, I didn't want to have the two. Even on my personal account, I just either forget or I just don't want to be bothered to post anything. Like I don't want to take the time to pause and post it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, my life really isn't that interesting anyway, so I don't even know what to post most of the time. Instagram is still there though. I figured I should keep at least that one since that has more activity and it seems to be what you guys would rather communicate through anyways. So I'll make sure to keep Instagram and post there. And so if you want to be, up to date on anything, it'll be on Instagram. Second thing is after this season, I'm kind of contemplating on whether I should continue posting on YouTube. I just don't think it's really worth it. Majority of my downloads come from, iTunes or Spotify or Apple or Google Podcasts. So, is it even worth spending my time to upload it? But we'll see. The podcast will always be available on the more popular, podcast platforms like Spotify and like all those ones I said earlier. So I don't think it would be very detrimental if I stopped posting on YouTube. I just really liked YouTube because my hope was that people would comment on the video. So it's like, people can interact with each other, but that doesn't seem to be happening. And, I do post a reel or at least try to for every episode on Instagram. So if people really do want to have like a back and forth or something, I guess they could do it there, but we'll see. I don't know. But wanted to let you know in case like you do actually listen through YouTube and you're wondering like why it stopped at season 3. So anyways, wanted to get those boring things out of the way. So on to the actual episode. This season has been both exciting and a bit stressful, honestly. I've gotten to meet a lot of interesting people and I did get to learn about new podcasts and I've been listening to different ones and it's been really cool to, build my list of podcasts that I listen to now. I've also gotten some free stuff. Like I got some free books and even a free shirt, which I actually wear quite often. I just wore it yesterday. So that was really nice. And I'm definitely getting more downloads and more interactions from listeners than I did in the past, which is amazing. And I don't know if that is because of like the new guests I have on because, it's they're posting it on their socials. And so it's like spreading the word. I'm assuming that is why, or that, just more and more people are finding my podcast. I don't know. But of course, with everything, there are a lot of lessons learned. This season has been full of lessons learned. If you're not a longtime listener, this season is definitely different from previous seasons. This season focused a lot on other people and interviewing them and learning about their stories and promoting their, whatever they're promoting, whether it's their podcast or their book or what have you, which has been great, but it definitely has its ups and downs, just like everything. And so if you haven't listened to previous episodes or maybe you missed it, I did start using Podmatch. So I had a lot of Podmatch guests come on. And if you haven't, heard of Podmatch, I've been kind of describing it to people as the Tinder for podcasters and guests. So it matches podcasters with potential guests and vice versa. So for this season, what I've learned from having strangers on my podcast is that you never know how the conversation will go until it actually happens, which obviously, duh. In the future though, I want to be more selective with my guest choices. I've mentioned this before, but when I first started having guests on, I kind of said yes to almost everybody. I was just so excited to have people on the podcast and listening to their stories. And, I was just so excited that people were reaching out and they wanted to be on my podcast. And it just felt like amazing that people are interested and they want to be a part of it. And I know that some of them, maybe most of them really just want to get on as many podcasts as possible. So there's a little bit of that too, but there are people who genuinely will actually listen to my podcast and they'll even like reference an episode, for example, and be like, I really like this. So blah, blah, blah. And then they want to be on the podcast, which is really cool. So, I gained a listener at the same time I gained a podcast guest. But, with all that said, I didn't really have a vetting process, which honestly, it's kind of hard to predict whether a guest is going to be good or not. So I'm not even really sure how I would do that, like how to create a vetting process, because it's about chemistry, it's about whether you click or not. And I don't know how to tell if it's going to be a good conversation or not. So if you have advice in that area, please let me know. The guests are really hit or miss, and it isn't until we actually start talking, right, to know whether we click or not. Not to say that I'm not grateful for meeting and talking to these people and having these people on. And I do appreciate and value their stories, and everyone's got a story to tell. For the most part, these people do go on and try to be on as many podcasts as possible. Not necessarily just to promote whatever they're selling, but a lot of the times it's just really sharing their story in hopes that it will help other people. So I do really appreciate that, and I value that, and I think that's awesome. And I am honored to be a platform for them to share their, their voice and their story. So that's great. But the chemistry sometimes just isn't always there. And hopefully you can't tell. I hope it wasn't super obvious. I tried to edit the awkward silences out and tried to make it sound like a seamless conversation. Some people really are, they're just there to be interviewed and to be asked questions. And sometimes I really do wish there was more of a back and forth. I just really value conversations. I love having deep intellectual conversations with people. I love, understanding their brain and how their mind works and how they think, the way they think. You can't really always get that if it's just asking about the thing they're promoting or asking about one particular subject and not really venturing off and going off tangents or, what have you. And I just want more of the back and forth and more conversation, because it's, I'm doing a podcast. I'm not a talk show host. I'm not Jimmy Fallon or Conan O'Brien or whatever. I'm just a regular person who just really values conversations with people. So I really probably should update my Podmatch profile to make that more evident. I don't know. I think my profile is pretty generic. I kind of just welcome anybody and anybody that has a story to tell, but I think I need to be more descriptive in the fact that I really want to have a genuine conversation with people. Another thing I want to work on is making sure I stay genuine to who I am because of my upbringing of like, well, that could be its own episode, but like more specifically, I guess my years in customer service have like over a decade of customer service. So I do tend to use my customer service persona when interacting with strangers. And what I mean by that is like, I'm overly nice, overly bubbly. Sometimes my voice is a little higher, a little higher pitched. Like when I say thank you or when I ask for something, like at a restaurant, for example, like if I say thank you to the waitress or waiter or ask her for something, my voice is always just like an octave higher. Like I don't know why. I think it's because like in customer service, you learn like it's good to be bubbly and high energy. And, there's even a study, I don't remember it, but a long time ago, I remember reading about it, but like people really like when they're more attracted to people with higher pitched voices because it's friendlier, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember, and I don't remember where I read that article or whether it's factual or not, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because people with higher pitched voices do seem friendlier. But anyways, I do have this customer service persona when I interact with these other people, like I said, overly nice. And I do tend to adapt or match that other person, if that makes sense. Like I become a bit of a chameleon, try to match their energy or match their whatever you want to call it. I think it's because I usually want to avoid any type of conflict. And I do tend to just blatantly agree with that person, regardless of whether I do or not, because my customer service persona is trying to avoid that conflict and please the other person. However, my favorite episodes are the ones where I felt like I didn't need to be that way. The one I did recently with Kevin Palmieri was a really good one. I felt like I was myself because he was just so chill and so open to my questions, which was really nice. With some people, it's hard to read if they're going to get offended or upset easily. And I wanted to, previously avoid asking like probing questions, but I did kind of, test out Kevin. I feel like he was kind of my guinea pig a little bit. And I don't know if I'll ever listen to this episode, but for the most part, I think I am pretty genuine and I am myself. But there are times where like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I agree with what that person said, but I didn't say anything or, what have you. And, Kevin was a good one because he just seemed like a really nice, chill guy when we did our meet and greet. So I thought, maybe I can like actually ask him probing questions or, because he's not a life coach, but that's what I kept referring to him as because it's the closest thing I can think of, but he is a coach. And he does help people with, different aspects of their life but more specifically like podcasts and business and stuff like that. But still, other parts of their lives too, like relationships and whatnot. And for me, I'm a skeptic. I'm like, why do you need a life coach? Like, why do people need life coaches? And then who are you to say that you can even give advice or, like how can I trust you that you're going to help me out? Or like, how can I trust even your advice or your coaching and your coaching methods, cause I've always just been a skeptic of life coaches because you can actually go to school to be a life coach. And for me, I'm like, there's no school for life. Life is life and everyone experiences things in different ways. And, you can't, like, how do you school someone on life and lifing? So anyways, but he was great. He answered my questions. He was great in the back and forth. And, he asked me questions as well. And it was just a really good conversation. It was a good example of like what a healthy it's not really a debate necessarily because we didn't talk about anything like super controversial. And I mean, I guess it's a debate because he's like trying to prove to me what like that life coaching or coaching is, valuable. But it is one of my favorite conversations for sure because I didn't put on, my customer service persona. I mean, I did a little bit, but only like in a respectful way, if that makes sense. Like I was just being respectful, and nice and kind, which is how I try to be generally anyways. So I don't know if you could call that my customer service persona or just me. In that episode, Kevin did ask me if I ever lose my rapport with people. And I think I did say, I answered with a no, but what I really should have said is not anymore. Like I said, like I definitely did at first, but the best conversations were the ones where I felt like I didn't have to put on that customer service voice, Going forward, like in the next season, like I really just want to be more me. I want to be more comfortable being me when talking to strangers, and I want to just be more genuine because like I mentioned in that episode, there's a good chance I probably won't see these people in real life. I'll probably never see them again, probably never talk to them again. And if they truly hated me or didn't like me, we would just not contact each other. So it really doesn't matter. Like I feel like I should be able to be myself and ask the questions I ask or want to ask, and it should be fine, because I'm not disrespectful and rude and mean, like a lot of the questions I do ask come from a place of pure curiosity, if I don't understand something, I just want to be able to ask the questions without people getting offended, because there's a lot of things I don't know, like I'm not a professional at anything. I don't know everything. I'm not up to date on all the news or all the, things going on, all the like new trends or new, because nowadays it's like there's always something new, right? Like there's always the wrong way or the right way to say something. And it really is hard to keep up, especially because I'm not big on social media and I don't always watch the news, and I don't, like, like even just like slang words or like different terms. My husband will say something, or his friends or our friends would say something, and I have no clue what they're talking about. Like I just learned about like what being based means. And I'm like, who uses that word? Who even says that? So I'm just, I don't know everything, and I'm not very connected to the outside world. I like being home, and I do tend to watch like old TV shows and old movies, and I'm not up to date like with new things, new slang, new words, new terms. So, the questions I asked are because I don't know, and I'm curious, and hopefully people don't get offended when I ask them stuff. I mean, that's kind of like why I value conversations, because I get to learn something new, and maybe they get to learn something new from me. Who knows? I also just have to acknowledge that I don't have to agree with everybody also. And I want to have that conversation. I want to be able to question people and understand their standpoint, but of course, in a very kind and respectful way. I used to reject people that I didn't have a similar mindset with on Podmatch, but that kind of contradicted what I said in a previous episode. I had a conversation with Jem Fuller, another one of my favorites, and I said something along the lines that if you cut yourself out from meeting and talking to people with differing views, you can really miss out on meeting some like amazing people and gaining a better understanding of people of different cultures, religious backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, etc. I do believe it's important to challenge your beliefs and have these healthy debates, because who's to say you're right or your view is the right way or the only way? Not everything is so black and white, and not everything is either one way or the other. In this political climate, especially in America, you're either this or that. there's no like in between, there's no like compromise, or there's never like a third option. You're just either A or B, and that's it. And I don't think that's healthy, and it's not really a great way to think, because that's not how the world works. We are not black and white. We are a slew of colors. We are a freaking rainbow, whatever you want to call it. It's just kind of, it's detrimental and very unfortunate that we think that way. And I want to have these healthy debates and healthy conversations. Like, I want people to try to change my mind, but like in a nice way. Like, I don't want people yelling at me or screaming at me that I'm wrong, but give me the facts. Give me your side of the story. Give me why you think that way. And, maybe you'll be able to change my mind. I don't know. We'll see. Or we'll just agree to disagree and move on from there. So all in all, being genuine, inviting people with different views, having guests who value discussions over interviews, that's really what I want. Like, I really love the deep conversations with people. I love the back and forth. Like, I want to be able to ask them questions and hopefully make them feel comfortable to ask me questions. They're, more than welcome to ask me questions too. And, sometimes asking uncomfortable questions can be really interesting. And you get to really know more about a person when you ask them more uncomfortable questions. And the more conversational style episodes seem to be what you guys like too. Listeners that reached out to me mentioned that they love the episodes where I'm talking to friends and family, or having, good casual conversations, because it's like hanging out with their friends. They feel like they're there with us, just chilling and hanging out with us. And I want to continue with that. I really like that. I thought that was so heartwarming to hear people say that they do like just having, having the chit chat like in the background. Or, a lot of people, I think, listen to podcasts while they're doing chores. And I think people really value just like that back and forth. And my podcast is pretty chill. I don't get into screaming matches, and I don't fight with people. And as much as possible, I do try to be respectful, even if I don't agree with the person, because I think that's really important. Then lastly, I just need to remember that this is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun. Like I mentioned earlier, I just kept saying yes to people, which added pressure to make time to do the meet and greet, make time to record the episode. And then I tried to make sure I got something out every week. And it kind of felt like a second job rather than a hobby. And it started to just really suck the energy from me. And some days it felt more work than it was worth, which really sucked when I started to have those days, because I really do love this hobby. Like, and once it becomes like more work and energy sucking, it's no longer a hobby, because hobbies are supposed to be things you do for fun, and it's supposed to be stress-free, or it's supposed to be a relief, and it's something that escapes from your day-to-day. Or it was starting not to feel that way sometimes, because I felt like I had this obligation to these people to make sure I get it out, make sure I let them know, make sure like I post it on social media and all this stuff. And I need to like remember this is a hobby first and foremost, and it's something I wanted to do for fun. And man, I just always have that hustler mentality. And I don't know if it's just like from my upbringing or what. But I need to like just relax and just take a chill pill. Anyways, I talked about this already in a previous episode. I think I kind of mentioned this in my It's Just Me Guys episode, like my last solo episode, which is another thing. I did re-listen to that one so that I'm not too repetitive in this one. And in that episode, I was saying how I did miss doing a solo episode and I was going to try to do another one before the season end, but I didn't. And I listened to that episode maybe like a couple days before the recording of this one. And I was like, wow, I didn't even give myself the time to do another solo episode, to just ramble and talk about what I want to talk about. Like, I didn't even give myself that time when this is my podcast and this is my platform and I should be able to do what I want with this podcast. But I didn't even do that. So shame on me, guys, really. So next year, I definitely want to make sure to remember this is fun. This is a hobby. This is something you do outside of work. This is supposed to be like a stress reliever. Don't, be so stressed out if you don't get something out. Like, don't be, so hard on yourself if you don't get it out regularly. Because like, I think it's also stemmed from when I first started doing the podcast and I would watch videos on like how to start a podcast. And like every single person was like, to have a successful podcast, you have to be consistent and you have to post something every week or something like that. And I was like, oh man, like if I want this to go big, like I got to do exactly what they told me. But then I was like, but no, this is not a job. This is a hobby. What am I doing? So that is my goal, is to just take a break, relax, and remember, if I am overexerting myself, to just take a break and don't worry if nothing comes out the next week, and don't make such a big deal and don't stress over it and don't, be so hard on myself and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a big lesson learned from this season. I sometimes forget that you don't have to always have that hustler mentality. But that's a hard one to kind of shake off. Like, I think that could be a good episode. I need to write that down. Hustler mentality that's a biggie. 'Cause it's good and bad, Like, it's good, obviously, if you want to like start your own business, and you kind of have to have that mentality to make it successful. But it's also, you have to draw a line of where that ends and where your personal life starts, if that makes sense. Anyways, maybe I'll do an episode on that. I don't know. We'll see. So with all that said, my plans for next season will be more relaxed, more chill. I want to value my conversations with my friends and family over strangers. Like, no offense to them. Like, I did meet some good ones, and I'll probably still keep my Podmatch profile and try to get other people on, and maybe ask some previous people to get back on. So when I do have strangers on, I definitely want to bring on people who value having genuine conversations. I'll also probably go back to doing every other week. I just don't have the capacity or energy to do it every week, especially this upcoming year, because I actually just got a promotion. I'm a manager now, and man, it definitely makes the time go by faster. I'll tell you that. So yeah, I don't know when season 4 will start. I'll make sure to post something on Instagram. So just, stay tuned for that. It probably won't be for a while, to be honest. I have a lot going on these next 3 months. So it might not even happen till maybe April. Maybe. We'll see. Anyways, happy last episode of the season. Thanks so much for sticking around and listening to me ramble. I appreciate all of you, and I'm excited to see what season 4 will bring. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season and a very, very happy new year. Thanks for making it to the end. If you enjoy what you hear and want to stay up to date on the show, please follow me on Facebook and or on Instagram. You can also check out my website at TheTalkativeIntrovert.podcast.com. All the information will be on there, as well as in the show notes. If you want to help support the show, please review and rate the podcast and share it with your friends and family. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.